The American Trap by Frédéric Pierucci. My battle to expose America's secret economic war against the rest of the world. Chapter 2. The U.S. Attorney. So that's what it was all about. In the car, I didn't want to believe it. Too long ago, too remote, too disconnected from present-day challenges. But I must face facts. This goddamn Indonesian case, the Tarahan power plant located on the island of Sumatra, has caught up with me. When the tender to construct it was launched in 2003, I was not yet based in Singapore. I was operating from the United States as Global Sales and Marketing Director of one of Alstom Power's divisions. To compete, we formed a consortium with the Japanese company Marubeni. At that time, Alstom was undergoing severe financial difficulties and on the verge of bankruptcy. Although this contract appeared relatively modest, $118 million, including some $60 million for Alstom, token importance was attached to it. The contract for the power plant on the Indonesian island of Sumatra, just a tiny dot on the world map, would breathe new life into Alstom and restore the company's reputation. In the FBI interrogation room, Seth Blum, having just told me the reasons for my arrest, and with me waiting for the attorney to explain more, I rewind to 2003 and remember how hard we had to battle to win Tarahan. We should not overlook the fact that in some countries around the world at that time, bribes were a common, if not accepted, practice. I also know that Alstom used two intermediaries, referred to as consultants. I certainly did not initiate their recruitment, but I knew of their existence. I barely have the time to revisit that era when the door opens and a man enters, accompanied by Seth Blum. He is around 35 years of age. Short, curt, in a manner I saw as arrogant. He spews out his speech with the flow of a machine gun. Mr. Pierucci, my name is David Novick, and I am Assistant U.S. Attorney for the District of Connecticut, in charge of the case against Alstom, your employer. You have been arrested in connection with the corruption proceedings we have instituted against your company. I am leading this investigation. You are accused of co-conspiring in acts of corruption in favor of an Indonesian government official in connection with the Tarahan contract. This constitutes corruption of a foreign public official and violates the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. We have been investigating Alstom's worldwide practices for 3 years now. As required by US law, we immediately informed your group of this, and yet, despite its promises, your company has persistently refused, since 2010, to fully cooperate with the Department of Justice. Alstom hasn't respected any of its commitments. Not one. He seems furious. I am tempted to reply that I am neither the CEO of Alstom nor its general counsel. I may well be a senior executive, but I am not a member of the board or of the executive committee. But the attorney interrupts my thought process. Mr. Pierucci, I strongly advise you not to call your company. We'd like you to do things for us. At that moment, my thoughts start to get muddled. What exactly is this prosecuting attorney asking me? We'd like you to help us against Alstom and its management. We are well aware of the position you hold at Alstom today and the one you held at the time of the Tarahan events. We know very well that you were not one of the decision-makers in the Indonesian case, but you nevertheless knew exactly what was going on. We want to prosecute Alstom's top management and, notably, its CEO, Mr. Krohn. We are therefore asking you not to inform them of your arrest. That's why you should not call them, and so, for the time being, you should give up the help of a lawyer, but of course, it is your choice. Do you understand? Well, no, I don't understand. Or rather, yes, I get the sense of the deal that is looming. David E. Novick is suggesting that I become his informant within the firm. I am jet-lagged and have not slept for 24 hours, and I am still at the mercy of the handcuffs that shackle me to this iron bar. What should I comprehend exactly? He makes no attempt to help me, remains vague, makes no precise request except to repeat incessantly that I must not tell anyone. To me, this is just unthinkable. As he tries to silence me, I recall being in one of Alstom's training sessions for senior managers. Ironically, this was shortly before my arrest. The seminar focused on the legal risks of our profession. We were given a small business-type card with the phone numbers to call in the event of arrest, including Keith Carr's, the group's general counsel. We were told to carry this little card with us at all times, and should we ever be confronted by a judge or a police officer, never to waver from the two rules instilled during these coaching sessions. 1. Do not say anything. 2. Call Alstom's legal department, which will immediately send a lawyer to the employee in question. I remembered the lesson and resolved not to fall into the attorney's trap. At least, that's what I believed at that moment. In utter loyalty to Alstom, and without imagining for a second what it would cost me, I applied the precepts given by my company's legal department and declined. I needed to alert them, and that's what I explained to the attorney. Listen, I have never been arrested before. I don't understand what you want. I therefore ask you to allow me to inform my company as well as my consulate. Poker-faced, the attorney signals to an investigator who hands me my BlackBerry, confiscated during my arrest. I immediately attempt to reach Keith Carr. In Paris it is 5 a.m. and the phone just keeps ringing. However, I am able to reach Tim Curran, the head of Alstom's power division in the United States, with whom I had an appointment the next day in Windsor, Connecticut. I briefly summarize the situation to him. He is flabbergasted. What is happening to you is unbelievable. This is completely absurd. We'll get you out of there fast. I'll notify headquarters immediately. Tim Curran comforted me somewhat. The attorney has gone, and 2 police officers search and conduct a complete inventory of my suitcase. I still have the right to make one more phone call. I hesitate whether to call Clara, my wife, and then I decide not to. Why worry her? At this point, I am absolutely convinced. It is only a matter of a few hours. I'll soon be released. David E. Novick may well have shown himself to be uncompromising, but no matter how much he insists that Alstom has been under investigation for almost 3 years, that the group has not responded to any of the Department of Justice's injunctions, that it has not heeded any of the questions asked and has played dead, I just don't believe it. Or rather, I do not want to believe it. I am firmly convinced and would put my head on the line to prove it that my company will come to my aid as soon as possible. I know I can count on the CEO. He has total faith in me. A few weeks before I left for New York, I had dinner with Patrick Krohn. He had invited me, plus a few Asian-based executives, to a sumptuous reception in Singapore at a very special venue, the Marina Bay Sands, the most sought-after restaurant in the capital. Footage of this establishment has circulated worldwide. It is a rather wacky building with a gigantic flat roof on the 57th floor, which projects over the ocean like the bow of a boat. Keith Carr was also present. For several years now, Alstom had been developing a large part of its energy activities in Asia, to the extent that Krohn was even considering partially transferring the group's headquarters to Singapore. An entire extra floor was rented at the end of 2012 to accommodate part of the Parisian workforce. Krohn was a regular visitor to the premises, and rumors started to circulate within the company. It was alleged that the CEO was considering taking up tax residence there. Admittedly, Singapore's tax rate is particularly attractive, maximum 20% excluding allowances. The head of Alstom's Singapore office, Wouter van Versch, began prospecting the city in early 2013 to find a pied-à-terre for Patrick Krohn. To tell you the truth, I didn't really care about any of that. Though I wouldn't describe our relationship as being particularly close, even if we had got used to one another, Patrick Krohn and I had what you might call a courteous relationship. In fact, 1 week before my trip to New York, I had accompanied him back to India to meet the managers of Reliance Industries, the largest private Indian conglomerate owned by the Ambani family. Patrick Crone is first and foremost a salesman, an outstanding negotiator who quite happily globetrots alone, reaching out to his partners directly. He can be uncompromising and sometimes almost rude, but he also knows how to ingratiate himself to clients. He made his mark among his troops in the field rather than at headquarters in his own office, sometimes even bypassing the internal pecking order. During that illustrious dinner at Marina Bay Sands, Keith Carr, loyal Crone fan, whom I have known for many years as he was previously in charge of the power sector to which I reported, approached me and whispered, "Fred, do you remember the Tarahan case and the American investigation for which we also carried out our own investigation?" "Yes, of course." "Why, what's going on?" "Not a lot. You have absolutely nothing to fear yourself. The internal investigation cleared you completely, but certain other individuals should be a little concerned." At the time, I thought it was a little strange that in the middle of a cocktail party he was talking to me about this case, whereas we had never mentioned it before, even in 2010 or 2011, when I was interrogated as part of the internal audit. But right now, in the FBI office, this conversation springs to mind, presumably because I'm dialing Keith's number again. At the second attempt, he finally picks up. The conversation is very short, but I remember every word. "I don't understand. I don't understand. It's incomprehensible," repeats Keith, who seems as stunned as I am. "We are in the process of finalizing an agreement with the Department of Justice. It's just crazy what's happening to you." "Well, maybe, but the US attorney doesn't seem to know about this deal, or he doesn't believe in it. He keeps telling me that I am here precisely because Alstom has failed to cooperate for 3 years and they have lost patience. Besides, you made it clear to me a few weeks ago that I had nothing to worry about. So why have they arrested me? It's completely baffling. We're so close to an agreement that I shall be boarding a plane in a few hours. I am expected in Washington today to strike a deal with the DOJ. Having said that, in light of what has just happened, I am reluctant to go to the United States. First, I will consult our lawyers. But don't worry. Above all, stay calm. Once I've contacted our law firm, we'll send someone to you. In the meantime, say nothing to the attorney, nor to the FBI. For tonight, it's a little late, but we'll get you out of there on bail tomorrow, and then we'll see what strategy to deploy." And then he hung up. There is no doubt whatsoever. I'll hear from him in the early hours tomorrow. He won't desert me. He'll be at my side until the end. The company I have served for so many years simply would not abandon me. I'd have to be crazy or paranoid to even consider it. As Keith's comforting words resonate in my ears, the prosecuting attorney returns to the interrogation room. "You don't want to cooperate. Okay, it's your choice. No, I'm willing to shed light on my role in this case, as I don't think I have much to reproach myself for. But I do need a defense lawyer, as I have absolutely no knowledge of how the American justice system works, or indeed of my rights." I think any non-US citizen would react in the same way. My explanations make no impression on attorney David E. Novick. Unwavering, he continues, "So, I will transfer you to a prison in Manhattan. You will spend the night there. Tomorrow, you will appear before a judge of the District Court of Connecticut. You will have the right to meet with your counsel before this hearing. The judge will decide whether or not you remain in detention. If you wish, you can also make a phone call to your family to inform them." Stay calm. That's what Keith Carr advised. Keep it together, play it cool. In any event, I have no other choice. Should I call Clara? The attorney seemingly prompts me to do so. Maybe he's trying to unhinge me. Of course, she'll be worried sick, and her distress will weaken my resistance. A classic when it comes to psychological pressure. The cops, I later learn, call it tenderizing the meat. I think on my feet. I should be released tomorrow evening at the latest. The country that let out on bail Bernard Madoff or even O.J. Simpson for alleged homicide is not going to maintain me in detention, a French citizen, a corporate executive who, quoting the U.S. attorney, did not have a decision-making role in the Tarahan project targeted by the U.S. judiciary. So, no, I won't call my wife. I would rather tell her about my misfortune when I get out. Politely, I decline David E. Novik's proposal. However, I demand that the French consulate in New York be notified. Novik immediately dials a pre-recorded number on his phone. Apparently, he has it all worked out. He knows exactly who to call at the consulate on a Sunday evening at midnight. He passes me the handset, and the person who answers is obviously on call. The person I am speaking to asks my identity and specifies that he is just taking note. Then Novik seizes the phone again to tell the consulate that I will be heard tomorrow, Monday, by a judge at the court in New Haven. The attorney has now finished with me for the evening. Ron and Ross are back on the scene. They take an inventory of all my belongings, computer, laptop, clothing, in my small roller suitcase. Then we pass through the armored doors. Fingerprints are taken from all 10 fingers. Plus there is a photo session lasting a good half hour. Then back into the elevator, again entering it backwards, after which we drive to the nearby Manhattan prison. The 2 inspectors don't leave my side during the whole admission procedure. Then, before leaving, Ron mutters, "Good evening, Mr. Pierucci. What I tell you is going to make you nervous, but I want you to know that tomorrow morning you will be so glad to see us." To be honest, I'm not sure if this is a strand of sadism or a friendly warning. I've never set foot in a prison before. At the entrance, 2 guards order me to undress. They take everything: my watch, my wedding ring, my shoes. I'm completely naked and so disoriented that I lose my command of English. Turn around, squat and cuff. The guard orders me in an accent that I can barely understand. Cuh, I get that. But squat, I don't remember what that means. Squat and cuff, repeats the guard angrily. Squat and cough? Seeing my dumbfounded look, he mimics what I must do. I have to crouch, squat, spread my legs and cough. I comply while the guard stands behind me. He's checking to see that nothing falls out of my butt. Squat and cough. Since then, I have retained the expression. I had to comply with this humiliating procedure dozens of times during my incarceration. That evening, as if in a trance, I discovered the US penitentiary system. The guard orders me to put on an orange jumpsuit. I then wait more than 2 hours, standing handcuffed with my hands behind my back. The prison has run out of English admission documents. There are some in Spanish or Chinese, but none in English. Once we get the papers back and fill them out, I'm taken to the cell. In fact, I later find out that they have put me in the hole, where the most dangerous prisoners are placed in solitary confinement. It is almost 3 a.m. A guard pushes me inside. I am surrounded by darkness, but it's not totally black. No, it's grey. A tiny neon light casts a gloomy glare. The guard closes the door. I then realize that I'm still shackled in the back. For the first time, I start to panic. I can feel the anxiety mounting. They're going to leave me handcuffed all night. Suddenly, I hear a banging sound. A small hatch opens in the door, and the guard shouts at me to step backwards. I obey, walk to him in reverse mode, and he removes my handcuffs through the hatch. Ross and Ron were right. The first night in detention is gruesome. The stench of the cell, its suffocating crampedness. I can't see anything, but I can hear. From all directions I hear violence and blood-curdling screams, as if they are fighting and slaying each other. I haven't eaten or drunk since my arrest. It's impossible to sleep. But this detention is merely an interlude. I spend the night trying to remember the facts surrounding the Tarahan contract 10 years ago and revising my schedule. Okay, so I have missed my first morning of appointments in Connecticut. It's not the end of the world. I view the pages of my schedule. I just have to reschedule this meeting to late morning and this one to early afternoon. By playing tight, I should be able to complete my entire program in 24 hours instead of 48. I will be back in Singapore in 3 days and back home as planned on Friday, meaning that this weekend I will be able to take my young twins, Rafaela and Gabriella, 7 years old, to their friend's birthday party, and the older twins, Pierre and Leia, 15 years old, to their football match. It seems dumb in retrospect, but this thought reassures and relieves me. I doze off for a few minutes,